sound too bad like this? And I go, really? And he said, yes. So, this is my first upload on this channel. Any feedback is of course appreciated, but I'm here to give you camp stories, and camp stories I will give you, well, at least one, and hopefully you will fall asleep rather quickly. So this happened. There was a summer camp that I went to when I was a lot younger. I had lots and lots of fun at this camp, and a lot of my friends went to it too. But as well as a summer camp, which was the main event, the main show of the year, there was also a winter camp. The winter camp was much smaller. They took many fewer people, and as a result, everyone got to know each other quite well, because the camp was quite small. And so it was me and about, I think, 16 other people or so. That was it for the winter camp. And of course it was the winter time and it was cold, and usually they put us in tents, but for the summer camp, that is. But they put us inside. They had just enough rooms for everyone, just enough beds for everyone. And I was in a room with a few other gentlemen. Well, gentlemen, we were all much younger at the time. And I remember one night, it must have been the second or the third night, I was playing a game on my phone. It was called Bowmasters, the one where you draw back the little bow and the character shoots an arrow, and you have to kill the other character on the other side of the map. Anyways, not sponsored, by the way, I just thought I'd mention it. And I hear this burping sound from within the room, and I got a little bit nervous, but I thought, well, it's fine, it's just a very, very juicy burp, very, very juicy. Well, then there was another burp, followed by a small trickling sound, and I thought, well, that was odd, is somebody peeing their pants? And but then the smell hit, and I remember there was this smell of vomit, and it was rather strong, and I actually said, I vocalized, I said, I'm getting up now and I'm turning on the lights. And I got up out of my bed and I stumbled towards the light switch, and I turn it on, and I see across the other side of the room one of my friends, we'll call him Bob, and he is unfortunately sitting up in his bed, covered in vomit. And I say, Bob! And as soon as I say that, he passes out right back into his own vomit. And I was panicking, of course, and I immediately exited the room. And it was cold, of course, but I was running on adrenaline at the time. Unfortunately, there was a camp organizer that came, and he was actually walking down the hall at the time, and I said, one of our boys, Bob, has vomited. And this camp organizer didn't seem too concerned. He goes, okay, that's fine. And he got a bucket and some tissues, and well, he walked into the room and started wiping it all up. Now, the interesting part for me was that some time later I asked my friends, well, what did you think about, Bob's little episode? And they go, what do you mean? And I go, don't you remember that night where he sort of, vomited everywhere? And they said, no, we don't remember that at all. We slept through the whole thing. And I said, really? And they go, of course. And I think between the shocked screams and lights turning on and people walking in with buckets and things, you'd think, well, surely you'd wake up for that. But no, they slept right through those episodes, which was very interesting. Anyway, Bob was fine, by the way. I think he drunk quite a bit. If I remember correctly, he drank a whole bottle of wine, or at least most of it. Now, I might be wrong when I say that. Frankly, I don't know how much he drank, but I know it was quite a bit, even for Bob, who could take a drink or two. Anyways, there was another interesting story in the same camp, actually. A few days later, I think it was one of the last days of the camp, we decided to do a barbecue. And the thing is that the barbecue was left unattended under a tree or something since the summer camp. So, of course, inevitably, being a place where, food is cooked, there are, of course, some traces of food left on the barbecue, supposedly, I'm assuming, from the summer camp. And, well, there were a few droppings. I don't know from which animal, but there were a few droppings from something on that barbecue. And, well, that wasn't the disturbing part or the interesting part. That's perfectly normal. The problem is that the camp organizers had trusted us teenage boys to wipe down and sterilize this barbecue so it was ready for human consumption. The problem is when you give a group of teenage boys a paper towel and say, go wipe, they sort of rub the whole thing once, swipe off the poop, and they call it good. Now, of course, I didn't really pay too much attention to this at the time, and we actually had a very, very good barbecue, and the food tasted all right, and all that sort of thing. But unfortunately, there was a few days later, some people had, or maybe a few days later, maybe it was the next day, where I noticed for me, I usually go number twos, so to speak, about once a day. Anything other than that is a bit too much for me, and I would consider abnormal. Well, I woke up, and a little after I woke up, I had to run. I had to go and do a number two, and I thought, well, that's usually a little early for me. I usually do mine in the evening. And then a few hours later I had to go again, and a few hours after that I had to go again, and I was rather shocked. And I had a friend who was also going quite regularly. And I remember my friend, one of my other friends, not Bob, but another guy, he fell asleep in front of the fireplace, woke up, vomited all over himself, and then went back to sleep. Now, mind you, the food that they had given us was fine. It was not really, off or anything like that. But I think eventually, sooner or later, we realized that, it was probably that, good old barbecue that wasn't exactly sterile that caused all of this stomach upsets and things. That was, I have to say, an excellent camp. Aside from all of the vomiting, there was an absurd amount of vomiting for a camp. I did have a great time though. We did stay inside though quite a bit. Naturally, it was the winter time, and we used to play cards and things. One of the things that we did like to do very often actually was play a game called Mafia. Now the thing about Mafia is that you always have to have a narrator. You always have to have somebody who knows everyone's roles and knows who's in the mob and who's not in the mob and who's died and all that sort of thing. It's a beautiful role-playing was the narrator. And I liked being the narrator for two reasons. Number one, it was very, very entertaining seeing your group of friends sort of stare each other down and contemplate and fantasize and all this sort of thing. Who could it be? Who's the mob? Who's part of the mob, so to say? Who's doing what? And and of course you already know. It's like watching a murder mystery, but you already know who the murderer is. But it's presented in such a way that isn't boring. It's not like the entire narrative relies on tension. No. It relies on psychology, and I think it's an incredible thing. Anyways, I'm not sure if anyone's still listening. I hope everyone's asleep by now, because, well, it's been about, it says to me here on my little, timer, it's not a timer, well, I suppose you could call it a timer of sorts, but it's built into the software. I've been talking for, quite a while. As of right now, it is, give me a second, 12 minutes, there we go, 12 minutes that we've been talking. If you're still awake, but you feel a little bit drowsier, well, perhaps YouTube shall recommend another ASMR video for you. If you feel relaxed, or if you fell asleep watching this and you're only experiencing this part of the video another day, well, then I will say, if you want more, you know which buttons to press, and please, do criticize me, do tell me how you should do this, how you should do that instead, because I am new to this, and I am new to this space. Yeah,